Hello, good morning. Hopefully people might be able to hear me, but I won't know for about 30 seconds, so I'm just gonna let this do its thing and uh, see if anybody comes in. I hope everybody's having an appropriate time having to stay inside. Also, I have the sound on the stream, so I'm hearing myself from 30 seconds ago talking back to me, which is slightly strange. Good morning. There's lots of names popping up of people that I know, which is interesting. Okay, I'm a little quiet according to Alex. Okay. God, you all seem very chipper in the chat there. This is good. Well, I hope that everybody's surviving being slightly locked in their houses. I'm at my partner's in Paisley, and it's very nice, but I do miss going outside and other people and things like that. I'll open the curtains a lot. Lovely. So, well, there's 33 people watching. I guess I should start being in some way useful. So this screen you can see here is Ableton Live, which is a digital audio workstation software. What's particularly interesting about Ableton is that it was designed for live performance, and you can use it to do all sorts of things that are not live performance, but yeah, the way they designed Ableton was so that you could not only make music in it, but also go out and play a gig and do things in a non-linear way, which I'll talk about more in a minute. So this right here in front of us, this is a fairly common sort of view of a lot of music software or even video editing software, where you have things work in a linear manner. I'll press play now, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the sound. This is just a silly little piece of nonsense that I knocked up yesterday. I think you can hopefully hear me over the top. So you can see this line here where the mouse is, the playhead, moving along. There's some like a drum part playing, and now here's a little synth part coming in, and then in a minute another part will come in, and so on and so forth, and it plays to the end. And that is pretty standard in terms of things go from start to finish. What's really interesting about Ableton is that they obviously this is a great way to make songs where you're actually trying to make something complete that you maybe want to release or anything like that. But if you press tab, one moment, have I got my just a moment while I get my keyboard shortcuts coming up. Yes, lovely, cool. Yeah, there you go. If you press tab, you see what was revolutionary about Ableton was that they had this thing called the session view. So instead of working from the start of a song to the end, you can have just little clips that you can trigger. So this is one of the drum beats, and by default these will just be little loops that just, if I start that, it will play forever, it will never stop, and I can have a different drum beat on the excuse me while I stop all the other clips from playing. I can have a different drum beat being this one, and another one, And by having some different parts sitting around here, I can just sit and jam with it and try and play with some arrangements. I don't have very many parts here, so that's nothing. But yeah, this was what was so interesting about Ableton, along with one or two other things that I might cover later. So I think what we're going to do today. Hi. The music is louder than myself. I'll turn the music down a bit. Hopefully you can still hear my voice. Or I'll just move my face closer to the computer, which is another way of doing it. That's the analog way of doing it. Cool. Everybody's here. So I think we'll go back to basics once I find my mouse pointer. I could also make my mouse pointer bigger. There we go. I'll get you all the nice big mouse pointer so that we can see exactly where it's going. That's better. Lovely. So what I'm going to do, mic up or track down, that is doable. This is all quite new to me, so it's good to have a little feedback. I just need to fiddle with the streaming settings for a moment. I believe that will be the music. Excellent. So hopefully we can get going. Sorry if you're seeing me fiddling with all my computer settings as we go, but that should work a little bit better. Hopefully you can hear the mic a bit better. I'm just using the mic in my laptop because setting up all this stuff with the streaming software is a little fiddly. I'll try and get you a nicer mic set up next week so that you can hear my voice more beautifully. So there appear to be a bunch of people here. I've run one session like this in the real world, and in the real world I was showing people some stuff and then allowing them some time to play with what they just learned, and then show you some more, and so on. I'm not totally sure how well that approach will work when we're doing this over a stream. I've got Simon from Ableton. Hello. Thanks for making Ableton. I very much love it. Yeah. So I think I'm just going to start showing you some things from the basics. I think today the aim will be just to build up a little bit of a track, play with some of the inbuilt instruments. I'm using Ableton Live Intro here. Some of you may have got licenses for Intro. Some of you might have downloaded the full Ableton Suite trial. I'm going to try, certainly this week, just to use sounds and things that are in Ableton Intro, just so that nobody's left out. No, I'm not using any instruments that none of you should be able to access. In following weeks, I might look into using some free VST instruments if we're going to talk about synthesis or anything. But for now, just going to do really basic stuff. Yeah. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to click New Live Set. This one I must have loved so much that I called it Nonsense. Let's just not save that for now. So this is roughly what a blank canvas looks like in Ableton. It's important at this point to point out a couple of things. Wherever you see these little pointy little arrows, There's one there, there's one there, and there's one there. Those are little bits that you can show or hide. So this one brings up the browser where you can find sounds and instruments and samples and all sorts of things. This one hides this whole bottom section, which can be useful if you don't need to look at that stuff and you want more space further up on the screen. And the one at the bottom shows and hides this little info view, and look, when you mouse over it, it shows you it. When you're just learning Ableton, I think leaving the info view up is great because you'll notice if you move the mouse over anything on the screen, it gives you a bit of information about what it is. It's like a little tooltip, gives you some info, and that's great. You know, it means you're a little bit less lost in this new software. So here we are. We've got a totally empty project. If we're existing generally in the world of dance music, let's start making some drums. So I'm just gonna make sure this first track. I guess this is another concept. It gives you 4 tracks to start with. Tracks can contain instruments like software instruments, you know, so a drum machine or a synthesizer or something like that. So, and that's what we call MIDI tracks. I'm not going to get into the history of MIDI just now, but you know, that's a track where you can put in an instrument and then draw in notes that it will play. The other type is an audio track where you could actually record in some sound, like the sound of your voice or a guitar or some whales in the sea. Any of these sounds that are available to you. But just to start, I'm going to click on the top of this track. So it is selected, this MIDI track, and I'm going to go over here into the browser, and I'm just going to start. So if you select a category on the left side, then you'll notice this section changes. I'm just going to go to drums. Now I'm going to have to find a drum kit that will load, because I also have another version of Ableton on this computer with lots of extra content, but that won't all load. So let's find one that does. And nice thing is, the Ableton browser, when you click on something like that, it gives you a little preview of what it sounds like. I quite like the sound of this. Hopefully they'll load. So if you just double click on it, it will load that drum kit up into the selected track. You can see whatever track is selected. I'm clicking here, by the way, on these. Click, click, click. Whatever track selected goes a slightly different colour. It's also worth noting that just if you're going to double click on things in the browser, add a Thomas. Yeah, it's just good to know that if I was trying to put sound onto the second track, but I had the first one selected and double clicked, I might replace the thing that I had. Although, like most software in the world, there's an undo. You can always go undo. And these days in Ableton, I believe you can undo forever. You could spend days making a track and then sit and just press the undo keyboard shortcut until there was nothing there anymore. Just looking at my screen. Cool. Right. Now, are we still all there? I'm just looking at the live stream and wondering if it's up to date. That I can't really tell. or else we're just lagging a bit behind time, and I might just have to accept that. Lovely. So I'm going to continue in the hopes that everything is working fine. We've added a drum kit, and now we'd like to program some drums. So these little cells here are empty. So if I double click on one, there you go, it makes a little clip. And if you click on a clip, you see where it says down here, no clip selected. This area will give you information on the clip that is selected. So if I select that, then down here we have, well, but this is where we can enter notes. The best thing to do here is up at the top here, there's this little picture of a pencil. And if you click on the little picture of a pencil, your mouse pointer turns into a little pencil. What I like to do is forget that button's ever there and use the B key on the keyboard, because that switches between the two and it's a lot faster. And then if you've got the little pencil on and you draw in some notes, then there's some notes there. If you want to know what the sounds are, you have to click the little headphone button. And you can click on the little piano roll down the side. But also if the preview is on, which is this little button here, it also plays it. So click to enter a note, click on it again to make it go away. And also if you click on the little play button on the clip, it'll start playing. And there we have a fairly boring 4 to the floor kick drum. I'm going to get rid of these, but that gives you the idea that this is the beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4. You can see up here the numbers. So what sounds I've got here? Now, how you create an excellent drum beat is a whole thing in itself. For me, I think the best way to make interesting beats is to find something that grounds the whole thing, something that means people always know where they are. So for instance, if I just leave this clap on the second beat and the fourth beat, that's quite familiar. Everybody kind of knows that, you know, you can get along with that. And I find if you've got stuff that's grounded like that, you can do something a bit, you can do quite weird things, because you've always got that little clap to let you know what's going on. And I'm just going to see what other sounds are in here. Ooh, that's a good one. Oh, there's a little hi-hat here. So now we've got a little loop going. By the way, you can just scroll up and down to find the other sounds. Pretty much all of the preset kits of Ableton will have 16 sounds. And you can actually, at the bottom here, you can switch this bottom section between viewing a clip and viewing the devices that are on the track. So this is our drum kit, and you can see the little play buttons lighting up. This is also where you can get in and edit a lot of things about the drum kit. Kind of going to leave that stuff alone for now. I'm just going to stop this just now. But also you can click the little play buttons here just to see what all the sounds are. But I'm going to go back. to editing. So this one loop going around forever is going to get boring real fast. So a lot of the time, how I like to work with this is get something going that's not bad. I've got this little thing, duplicate loop. If I click this, now my loop is twice as long, and it's just copied the whole thing into the second bar. So I'm going to change some things in the second bar. To make it a bit more interesting. Ooh, that's a fun noise. Okay, and now I'm going to do it again. So if I click duplicate loop again, it's going to copy both the bars I've already made into some new bars, and that'll go great. And now we've got something going. And I'm just going to maybe put one more thing like that. Nice, that's good. I'm going to do just going to do a little fill. Craig, which version of Ableton are you using? Are you using an older version? If I'm going too fast as well, just tell me and I will go slower. This is Ableton Live Intro 10. Also, I'm using a slightly different. There you go. This is the default color setting, just so that everybody's software looks roughly the same. Okay, nobody's said anything horrible about me so far in the chat, so that's roughly a good sign. Or it means I'm not on the internet anymore, who knows? So I'd like to have some variations on these beats. So if you click and hold down on a clip that exists, you can move it into a different location, which is fine. If you click and hold, and then on the Mac, hold down Alt, which I believe will also be Alt on the PC. It'll either be Control or Alt, but you'll see that the icon changes. I'm interested if Live 10 would look that different. Yes, yeah, Craig, I wouldn't worry about having. You'll have more excitement than this one, but the drum kits and things should work the same. Oh yes. Oh, you might be in the other view, Craig. Yes, tab. Yes, tab switches between what they call the arrangement view, where you can arrange things from start to end, and the session view, which is for putting in different clips and jamming with them. Anyway, I'll continue on. It's very strange, like I'm having a conversation with people who aren't here, but this is all very new. So what I've done, I'll do it again. I'm going to delete this extra clip. I'm going to click on it, I'm going to drag it down, and I'm going to hold Alt. Zooming in and out of bars. How do you zoom in and out of the bars of music? Yeah, good question. What you do is if you move the mouse to the top of the clip view when it turns into this little magnifying glass, click, hold, and drag up and down. Katrina, the tab key on your keyboard is on the left. You'll have Shift, and then above Shift is Caps Lock, and then above that is Tab. There is also I'm sure there's a button in Ableton for it, but I've literally never used it because I've always pressed Tab. Oh yes, over here, I remember now. Over on the far right of the screen, it has these two little icons, which hopefully you can see me clicking on. That'll switch. Yeah. So we've covered the zooming in and out. So hopefully, well, I've made a drum kit. I've made a drum beat. And I'm just gonna, I've copied it, which once again, got our clip, we can drag it around. If we drag it around while holding, I believe, Alt, I really need to have double checked these keyboard differences between Mac and PC before I start. So I've got another clip. So now we've got two clips to play with. And if I click play, you'll notice it flashes and then starts playing. The default setting with things like these clips in Ableton is that if you click play, if one is already playing on a track and you click play on another one, it waits until the end of the bar and then starts playing the next one. It's possible to mess about with that. There is, in fact, it's this menu up here changes how that works, but let's leave it at one bar for now. Now both these clips are exactly the same at the moment, so I'm going to double click on the bottom one just to make sure that's what I'm editing at the bottom, and I'm going to do some more stuff to it. I'm going to make it different. I'm going to make it a more developed version of the beat, so that maybe we could use one for an intro and one for a later part. I'm just going to click and drag all the way along and get some 16th hi-hats in there. You know, they're quite nice. At this point, it might be good to talk about a little bit about how you can move things around and also how you can do some additional editing to some of these notes. So if you are, if we've got our beat here, if you are in pencil mode, you're still going to be drawing stuff, and right now I don't want to draw anything, so I'm going to press B to just switch back to the mouse pointer. So you can, if you want, you can make a boundary box like many things and just select, and that would select all of these things, and I can move them around. I don't really want to move those around. I'm just going to leave them where they are. If you want to select all of, say I've put in this 16th hi-hat and I decide that I really don't like it, obviously I could try and select them all like this and delete them and then find a way in here. But the quick way of doing it, that Switch version of Ableton, have you downloaded Ableton Suite? You may have to go to their, if it's Suite, It's been ages since I actually downloaded it, but you might have to go to the website and download the instruments and stuff separately and install them as a live pack. As I say, it has been quite a while since I actually had to download it because it's just been a very long time. If you download the Ableton Live intro, I think it includes a certain amount of content, but if it's Live 10 Suite, you might have to download additional files. Could be wrong. Anyway, continuing with this, if I want to delete, you can see if you click on the little piano roll bit, this little slim black and white bit, if you click at the beginning of a row of notes, it'll select all of them, and then you can use your backspace key, and they're all gone. I'm just going to undo that, because actually I don't mind them. I'm actually just going to delete that one and delete all these ones. I'm going to zoom in for a little second. We're using the zoom, so move the mouse above the bar here. Also, feel free to not use the drum kit that I did because we're all different and we all want to do our own things. So I've just got one bar of hi-hat here just so I can edit it faster. So you might see at the bottom here we have these little lines. These represent the velocity of the note. It's easier to talk about it in terms of just being the volume of each individual note. They call it velocity because it's to do with the speed that the key goes down on a keyboard or something, but it's generally the volume. It is possible for the velocity to control other things about the sound, but the best way to think about it is, at this point, is volume. So if I have all these notes selected, I can, well, if they're all selected at once, I can make them all be very quiet. In fact, that's almost inaudible. But also, you can, if I use the pencil, I just like to put a little bit of variation into them so that they are a little bit more human. That's okay. I'm vaguely happy with that. Now, just like copying that clip up there, if I wanted to, if I click on them and move them, but also hold down the Alt key, that will drop them into that second bar. I'm just going to zoom out some more by moving the mouse to the top of the bar until it turns into a magnifying glass. I'm also going to just select and delete those ones that I missed. And once again, we could either just trying to show you some different ways of editing. So I can do that again, move them all while holding Alt. Or if I've got them all selected, it's possible to right click and say duplicate. That's another way of doing it. Or you will notice that it also has the keyboard shortcut listed here, which is if you're on a Mac, it's the Apple key and D. If you're on a PC, it'll be Control and D. But that, yeah, lets you duplicate what's there, and you could do that with a whole bunch of stuff. I guess if people want to make real crazy kind of beats, then you can also the default view in Ableton, or the default size of notes that it'll put in is 16th notes. That's where you can have 16 notes in a bar. If you want to go in deeper, well, you can right click and you will have, so I always do certain things with keyboard shortcuts. but you. Oh yes, the adaptive grid. I think. Do excuse me while I find the things that I never actually do with the menu. There we are. Yes, it is possible to get in and make smaller notes if you want to make really little, you know. I mean, that's quite a horrible noise. For me, the easiest way, if you want to zoom in and out, if you want to put in smaller and bigger notes, is just to use the keyboard shortcuts. So Apple and 1, it's not as easy to see, but you can see that there's more grid lines appearing in between, which means, sorry, what am I doing? Which means now you can put in these, and you can make them, if you zoom in, you can make it even tinier. These notes are horrible. But yeah, you can use Apple 1 and Apple 2, or Control 1 and Control 2 if you're on Windows. And also if it is set, you can change the grid in the right click menu. I think the default setting is that it's fixed to 16th notes, but you can also change it to what they call the adaptive grid, which is just the more you zoom in, the smaller it lets you put notes in. I'm just going to zoom right back out and stop getting into the tiny notes, because anyway, so now I've got 2 beats that I can switch between. And I'm going to copy this first one again and edit it. I'm going to delete most of the kick drums out of it. Just so that I've got another variation. And actually, then I'm going to move these around a little bit. And because they are all just green things that all look the same, maybe over here we have a box to give the clip a name. So I'm just going to call this one Breakdown. And then I'm going to double click on the next one down. And I'll just call it main 1. It's not very descriptive, but and I'm going to call this one. So I've double clicked on the clip, choose the name. There we go. And now we've got some beats we can switch between. And you know, that's quite fun. And if you want to stop the things that are playing in a track, you can press the little stop button there, which will stop that from playing. But if you had other clips playing, it would leave them playing. How we doing? Are we making some beats? Okay, so all that's is still having some issue. So all that. So are you finding that well, firstly, you need to make sure that you have the browser showing. Apologies if you did. I'm just trying to cover every angle. And then you should have some sounds. You won't have all of this stuff. I own Ableton Live 9 Suite, so I've got a whole load of drum kits that came with that have come up in this as well. Yeah. Cool. So, right, we've got some beats. Hopefully your beats are banging. Craig, obviously, if and anybody else, if you really think I'm going too fast, tell me in the chat. This is a sort of new thing to me, and I've been using this software for far too long because I'm very, very old now. So it's kind of second nature to me. And if you feel like I'm missing anything, or assuming any knowledge that you might not have, let me know. Fossilian. So you want to know how to make them not in a straight measure. Okay. Yeah, there's a couple of things you can do, which I wasn't necessarily going to get into, but for you, I will. If you, well, one way is you can move stuff off the grid by holding the button which you hold. If you hold Apple, if you're on a Mac, or Control while moving a note around, then it stops snapping it to the grid. So if we see that one's become lazy. So that's one way of kind of going off the grid. It is also possible. I'll just explain a couple of ways that you can do these things. You know how I was using Apple/Control 1 and 2 to kind of make smaller and larger note subdivisions. If you go Apple and 3, that changes the grid onto a triplet grid, which is quite useful. And also, if you change onto a triplet grid, remember to change it back or things might go weird. The other thing, I'm only going to touch on this quickly because it's a rabbit hole. If you want to have swing, the best way to describe swing, if you had something that was going like 16th, if that's in swing, it would be more. That's quite a bad explanation. In older versions of Ableton, swing was much simpler, and there was just a controller you could turn up. In more recent versions of Ableton, they made it more complicated for reasons that make sense, but that I'm not going to get into it too much. So they made this thing called the groove pool. It's a little bit tedious. You have to basically go over to this bit where it says groove. Then you have to find something that is a 16th swing, and my screen's too small for me to be able to see what I'm choosing. Yeah, which is slightly annoying. Let's see if I can I still can't see. That is quite upsetting. So yeah, I've chosen a swing one there, and you can hear suddenly it all sounds a lot more jiggy. Hopefully you can hear the difference. I'm not going to get into my feelings on the groove pool system in Ableton. I think it could have been simpler, but it's fine. But yeah, that's how you add swing. I'm gonna stop talking about that just now because it's a rabbit hole, and I'm gonna make my Ableton bigger again because my poor old eyes need to be able to. Right, getting back on track. We've made some beats. They are banging. Let's add something else. So I think we should add now. It's up to you what you choose, but I'm going to go into the instruments section, and I'm going to go into. I would ignore drum rack, and I would ignore impulse. God, I forgot impulse still existed. I'm going to go to instrument rack. There's lots of categories of sounds in here, much like, you know, and there's sort of recreations or sampled versions of, you know, organs, and it just like with the drums, it'll give you a little preview of what sort of sound that is. Honestly, just have a little listen through, see what sort of thing you're feeling like. I feel like I might have a bass line. Bass is good. That one's quite fun. Now, before I load that in, I'm gonna make sure that this second track is selected, and I'm going just to do it a different way. I'm actually, doesn't matter if it's selected. I'm just gonna click and drag this thing over here. I could also do it the other way, and this will just change the sound. And that one's not available. I see. Okay. So we've loaded an instrument, and in the same way as we did before, if we want, we can double click in a little empty cell, and here we have a piano roll. It looks a little bit different. When there's a drum rack loaded, it gives you the names of the drum sounds and things. Whereas when there's an instrument like this, it's a piano roll. It looks like a piano would, so that's your. And if you make sure you've got your little preview button on, then you can hear. You can hear you've got notes in there. And if you want to scroll up and down the piano roll, just like with zooming in and out there, you move it to the left of the piano, and it turns into a little magnifying glass. If you click and drag up or down, it goes, if you go further down, going to drag down some more, going to get to the lower notes. And just like with the drums, if you click, then it'll make a note. So actually I'm gonna start this playing. That's not my finest bass line. And actually I'm just gonna leave this drum beat on. I'm gonna very briefly touch upon the fact that this here in the middle is the mixer. I'll just mention right now that if you click on these parts, that's your fader for how loud each track is. So I'm just going to touch on that quickly, just so that I'm just going to turn the drum beat down just a little bit while I'm working on this other thing. And actually, I'm going to play that breakdown on. And I'm just going to play about for a minute. I'm just going to find something that I like. And also because this isn't a drum part, this is something where you might want to play longer notes and things. It's good to mention that if you are not in draw mode, you know, if you've got normal mouse pointer down here, if you move the mouse to the edge, either to the left or the right edge of a note, you can make the notes. Yeah, you can make the notes longer or shorter. Okay, and that's quite boring at the moment. I'm actually going to do this duplicate loop thing, and I'm just going to select each bar. I'm just going to try moving it around a bit to try and create a little chord structure or something. Oh, by the way, this is me not remembering to tell you things that I'm doing, but you can hopefully see if you selected a bunch of notes and you want to move them around, you can just use the up and down arrow keys on your keyboard. So I'm sort of slightly doing this at random. I guess I'm trying to cover more of the technical aspects than necessarily how one goes around writing their music, because I feel like the way that people write music is very personal and different, and can be different for everyone. So I've moved some notes around. I don't really know what they sound like, but let's see what it sounds like. I'm actually quite happy with that. You know what, I'm going to just drag this down to sit next to this kind of main part. And once again, I'm going to do a bit of copying and pasting and just try and make some variations. So I'm actually just going to click, drag, hold down Alt, and that's going to make a copy. And I'm going to do that once more. So now I've got 3 identical copies. I'm going to leave the bottom one alone. Let's go to the middle one. And I'm just going to... I think I'm just going to sort of knock some holes in this. I'm just going to maybe take out the middle notes on each bar, just so I've got like a simpler version. Cool. Now I've decided that actually I'm going to move this one up here. This is my original. I'm going to copy the original down again, and I'm going to, instead of making another simpler one, I'm going to make one with even more nonsense happening. I'm just going to try put in some extra notes. So now that we have some other things happening, you can see how obviously we've got something we can jam around a little bit, and you see we can trigger individual clips. But you may have noticed that over here, where I'm wiggling the mouse, thanks Kim, you may notice over here that there's another little play button here, and actually if you click on here you'll notice that this whole row of stuff, changes colour because it's highlighted. So as well as being able to trigger individual little clips, you can also trigger what they call scenes, which is a whole row of stuff. Obviously we only have 2 things at the moment, but you'll notice if I click that play button that did that, if I click this one, so there's some parts there. I might go on a brief diversion just to talk about how you can change sounds. Say that I like my bass line. I've decided I don't like the sound. I actually do quite like the sound, but don't tell anyone. This once again we didn't cover as much, that you can switch the bottom view between looking at the clip or looking at the actual device, the instrument that is on that track. This little button here, this little thing that looks like a spinny roundy thing, is the hot swap button, which allows you to swap what sound you're using on that track. All the notes and stuff that we've put in, that stuff's all staying, it's not going anywhere. That's that's all fine, but you can choose another thing, and as long as you'll see it, this will be lit up in orange, this will be lit up in orange, so I could just change that, and that's quite like that sound as well. And you can do the same with the drum kit. So for instance, if I double click on this, I've got my my drum kit selected. I'm gonna press that hot swap button and just gonna find Jarble kit. Will that work? Not feeling it. Classic, some sort of note. And yes, I can't use all the kits that I have. The spinny roundy, very important, yes. This problem I'm having is just because I'm trying to load sounds that are from my full version of Ableton when I'm using the cut down version of Ableton. Quark is a good character from Deep Space Nine. Let's see if that one works. Good character, not loving the kit. Sometimes it'll have a little, yes, that's another one of them. Anyway, though, it's... Okay. Oh, yeah. Some of these drum kits have some sort of little sample sounds in them that are not necessarily drum sounds. I'm just trying to get back to something if it works. There we go. That's quite strange. I've ruined my song, but that's fine. You know what? I'm just going to undo. I've forgotten what the original kit was called, but I'm just going to undo. And I'm going to undo again. And I'm going to undo. And Ableton's going to get annoyed at me again. I'm just going to get annoyed again. And I'm just going to keep undoing until I get back to safety. There we go. That is the drum kit that was originally on. Once you're done hot swapping, you can click on the little hot swap button just to switch that off. I think they've very deliberately made it light things up in quite a bold orange if hot swap is on, just to be like, you're still swapping presets, by the way. Cool. So I'm quite happy with that new bass sound. I think might just try and move on and make another track. So these two other tracks that are just in it's just the default project setup when you click new. I don't want them. I want them out of the way. I'm going to click on this audio track. I'm going to press backspace and it's gone. I'm going to click on this other audio track. I'm going to press backspace and it's gone. Because I want some more MIDI tracks. And to do that, we're going to go up to the Create menu, which might be off the top of my screen, but it's up at the top. You might not quite be able to see it, but we're just going to go to the Create menu and go Insert MIDI Track, and now we have another MIDI track. I'm going to do it twice, just because who knows what I might want to do. There, we've got two new tracks. And I'm going to go to the browser again, and I'm going to find something. I'm going to find something that might be fun. I'm feeling like some sort of bell kind of noise might be fun. So, except I can't use that. How about this one? No. Bear with me a moment while fine. Can I have a marimba? Oh, I can't have a marimba. Apologies for this little problem. This is just me trying to load things that are not part of this version of Ableton. I didn't fix it. Let's have a look at synth keys. It's nice. Can I have that? Here's another thing that I've not dealt with that might be useful for you. Now we've got this track selected. We've also got it record armed, which is this little thing here. So if you happen to have any sort of MIDI keyboard or anything plugged in, I actually do have one here. Then you can use that, and you know I can use that to play. So instead of actually recording, instead of drawing in notes, it's absolutely possible to record stuff. If you don't have a MIDI keyboard plugged in, Ableton have actually quite cleverly made it so that the middle row of keys on your keyboard, starting from A, basically A to L. A will be a C. So that row will be like the white keys on the keyboard. Which is pretty useful. And the row above is the black keys where appropriate. So hopefully you're seeing how that works. If you want to switch octaves to play higher or lower notes, you can Z goes down the octave, X goes up, so yeah, you can. This is where it's not something I've really thought about, or well, it's not something I've really covered, as you might start running into the issue of latency, which is basically the amount of time that elapses between you pressing a key and you actually hearing the noise. It's possible to get latency to an amount of time that you don't notice, and everything is wonderful, and it's just like playing a keyboard. Anyway, now that we've done that, maybe for this part I'm going to try and play something on my keyboard and record that in. So I'm just going to leave these clips playing and have a little noodle for a second until I find something, something on my keyboard that I like, and then we'll go through how to record stuff in like that. Okay, I've got a rough idea what I'm doing. It might be nonsense, but we'll work it out. So if you want to record directly into one of these clips, it's just a case of, it's just like launching them. So if I press now, it'll start at the bar, and by default it'll just keep recording until I press the thing again, press the button, little play button, and then it'll wait till the end of the bar. It's quite easy to end up with the wrong number of bars, but we'll go through in a moment how to fix that. So this is empty, nonsense, useless, don't like it. So I'm just going to let this loop around once more. That's the second bar, that's the third bar, the fourth, press record. Okay, I actually managed to catch that, so that is 4 bars long. It's quite badly played, but we're going to fix that. I did a bit too well there. It's quite common, I do it all the time if I'm recording in, that I won't press the, while I'm trying to play the keyboard with one hand, that I won't trigger the end of the recording in time, so quite often I'll end up with an extra bar, like this. And you can change the loop here, just to cut that extra bar off. You can also change it here. Now, also this is quite badly played. So what we're going to do, I've just zoomed out, and actually you can zoom in and out here as well by clicking and dragging left and right. So I'm just going to do this so that I can see all the notes and that I can select them all. Oh, that was a nice noise. The other much easier way to do this is if you make sure you've clicked inside the clip. You can go Apple/Control if on Windows and A. That selects everything inside that clip as long as you've already clicked inside the clip. Because otherwise, if you clicked up here and you select all, it selects all the clips, and that's not what we're after. So double clicking on the clip, clicking inside it, select all. And what I want to do is inside the edit menu, which I hope you can see, we can do quantize. And quantize, we'll move everything into time, and now it's in time. And that's much nicer. Cool. So that's roughly how you can record stuff in. I'm just going to have a little listen to this. One thing we haven't really touched on is that there will be well, yeah, most of the preset sounds in Ableton. Excuse me while I just turn this down a bit. Hopefully that's made it quieter for you. Most of the sounds, the inbuilt sounds in Ableton, will have sort of eight controls assigned. These are called macro controls because they quite often are controlling something much further down into the sound. But they assign 8 controls that usually will do something quite nice. So this is changing a filter that brings the high end of the sound away and makes it just a little bit more, yeah, less bright. Oh, that's an LFO. That's sort of adding a bit of a wobble. And this is some effects that are sort of pre-baked in there. So these sort of controls will depend quite a lot on what the sound is and what the sound designer has decided are going to be cool or important things for you to control. Let's see what I've got. If I double click on this track, make sure we're viewing the device. Okay, similarly we've got a bit of filter. Got some envelope control. I'm not going to get too into the fine points of synthesis at this point because it's a whole thing on its own. But yeah, you'll have some controls that can do some fun stuff. And I don't really like what I've done to that, so let's just, that's a bit better. Yes, good question from Joe at the Glad Cafe. I'm assuming that is, yeah, that is a thing. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a little drink of juice actually. So I think I'm just going to quickly make one more track, just one more little part, just so that it'd be nice to get into trying to put together some sort of arrangement. But I think I want one more thing to be in, just so we've got another part to make a more interesting arrangement. Let's find a really cheesy synth or something. Oh, hello. Great. Okay. Cool. That's extremely cheesy. I'm just gonna program something in. My bass line's in some sort of F related. I'm just duplicating the note. Oh yes, another handy shortcut. You can use the arrow keys to move up and down by one. If you hold Shift and an arrow key, moves it by whole octave. Oh, my keystroke thing is coming up with a question mark for that, but I'm holding Shift and down, or Shift and up, and that's quite useful. And then duplicating it, and then duplicating it, and using Shift and up and down. I'm just trying to make a little part. That's, you know, it's alright. And I think I'm just gonna duplicate that and move it around a little bit. Like I did with the bass line. I'm sort of just doing... yeah, it's, you know, it's a thing. Also, just to make my life slightly easier, I'm going to touch on the fact that when you insert a new track, it just gives it a boring name like 2 MIDI. If you then put an instrument onto it, it will rename the track by default, you know, just to whatever instrument you put onto it. But you can also just right-click on the top of it and go rename. And I'm just going to rename some of my tracks just to... you want to see everything you played, Audrey. So if you click to the left, if you're in your clip, if you are just to the left of the piano keys here, click here. If you go if you move left and right while holding down, that moves in and out of the vertical plane. And at the top, where it also turns into a magnifying glass, if you click and go up and down, that'll zoom you in and out horizontally. Hopefully that answers your question there. So, what was I doing? I was going to rename some things. So, just to make my life easier, I'm just going to call this track Drums. And I'm going to call this track Bass. And I'm going to call this track Chords. And I'm going to call this track Cheese, because it is cheese. And just, yeah, to keep things simple, I'm just gonna name these three bass ones. I'm actually just gonna call them 1, 2, and 3. You can also, if you want, it's possible to change the color of clips, which can be useful. You can also do it to multiple things at once. If I it is, yeah, it's quite a good cheesy color, although a hashtag vegan. So let's not go too. We'll assume that it's made out of um, coconut. So yeah, I've named some tracks. Sorry, I've named some clips and things, and I'm just gonna make the browser go away, and I'm actually just gonna using the little show hide button here. I'm just gonna make the bottom info panel going away, just to get it out of the way. So there's a couple of ways to there's quite a few ways to arrange songs. What you can do, if you're still thinking about it in terms of something that you want to jam around with, you can just arrange some scenes. So, for instance, I'm just going to start copying some things around. I'm going to take my breakdown thing and this, and I'm going to go, okay, maybe that's what an intro would sound like. And you see I've run out of space here underneath, but if you say right click over here and in, there you are. I've learned a new limitation of this version of Live. You can only have 8 scenes. Okay, well, let's put this at the top. Yeah, that's okay. Limitations are important. So yeah, what we can do. Let's just arrange this in a timeline because it'll be simpler. So one way of doing it is you can, if I click on this little drum part and hold down and press tab while I'm holding down on it, then I can drop it onto the timeline. And also, if we're going to start doing this button here is the back to arrangement button. Just going to press it. We're just going to press it. We'll talk about it properly later, but we're going to press it. It basically exists because there's 2 ways for things to be playing. They can be playing off the timeline, or they can be playing from the session view. And it's actually possible to have a combination of the 2 happening, and it can all be a little bit confusing as to what's playing from where. You'll see it's now disappeared because there's no conflict. There's nothing playing from here, but as soon as I say have that bass playing, you'll see obviously it's lighting up there. Just let's not think about it for now. Let's just, if it comes up there, just click it. So I've copied over my little breakdown drums, and actually, so that's one way you can do it. Is just click and hold, click and hold, press tab, and then drop it in the right place. The only thing about doing this is that you're essentially going from sort of vertical to horizontal, and you just have to take a little moment to realise that where your tracks are sitting. I could drop that part onto the bass track by accident, and it'll play those notes, but be a bit weird. Doing that might give you the best happy accident of your life. Like, it might be totally excellent, but no, I'm going to drop that on the drum track. And then you can click and move things around in time. So I'm just going to chuck the parts down somewhere so I've got some bits to work with. So I'm just pressing tab to switch between the 2 views. I'm going to copy. If you want, I believe you can, if I click on this first clip here, I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to click on the 3rd clip. You'll see how these have all lit up. They're all selected. If I click and hold, press tab, then it's going to put all three of these bass parts down here. And I'm going to maybe just pair them up with the sort of three, the three different drum parts there. Once again, if I click on this chord part and this cheese part, and then click and hold, you'll see it actually lets you move them both at once as well. Maybe okay, now we've got some parts to work with. Couple of little things up here. Actually, I'm just going to hide this again. It is possible to collapse. You can basically make the tracks smaller. It shows you a bit less info. Obviously, here you can actually see a representation of all the notes that are playing and stuff, which is quite good. But especially if you end up with a project that's got, sometimes you'll end up with a project with 40 tracks or 100 tracks if you're really really going for it. Less is more, people. Okay, so now anyway, now I have a timeline, and I've just got some building blocks. I've just got some Lego here, and in this mode, if we start playing, that's the beginning. Okay, I don't want that to happen. So with this, you can just click on stuff and drag it around, and you can also, these parts are all loops. If you move the mouse to the edge of them, so it turns into this little bracket, and drag them out, it actually just loops it. So you could drag that out forever if you really wanted to. And I'm going to drag that out, so that's going to be my first little part, and then I'm going to move some of this out of the way. And maybe after that amount of time, this is gonna happen. Now this part is all down to how you want your tune to go. Maybe you want it to bang in with the drums. Maybe you want it to have like a. Maybe actually I want this to have a nice intro. If I want to move lots of stuff at once, I'm going to click on the first kind of most top left clip, and then the most bottom right clip that I would like to move, and hold down Shift while I'm doing it, and that's selected all of them because I want to move them all the way. I think I'm going to try and have just a nice sensitive chord sound to start with. Oh, there you go. Okay, that's quite fun. I'm gonna make this continue looping underneath. And then I think next it's gonna be more drums. Down Alt to copy, and I'm going to drag these out so they keep playing. And so on and so forth. You can you can move things around. You can copy things. It's also possible to create clips in here. Obviously I don't have to work with just what I've already created. If I want to make a new, say I've decided there's going to be a new section here and I want a new drum part, I'm just going to click in some empty space and drag it out. So I've got a little box selected here. I'm gonna well, there's a few ways to do it, but I'm gonna right click, and you can go insert MIDI clip, and I didn't want it to be there, I wanted it to be there, so I'll click and drag it over. And by default this will be a little loop. It's also possible, it's quite useful when you're working on stuff. If you're working on one particular section, you can make stuff loop. You've got a little what they call like a loop brace here. Obviously, we're playing an empty clip. I haven't really covered the kind of transport controls, but obviously you've got a play button, stop button, record button. But this one here is the loop, and you'll see that the loop brace kind of becomes a bit more solid, and now it's just going to play around and around this loop, which is good if you're trying to work on, trying to just drill down into one section of the song and really work on it. So I'm just going to make another little drum beat just to show that you can. Maybe this would be like a breakdown or something. So I'm just doing some copying and pasting. I'm going to select all these and duplicate them. So I'm not sure what else would be happening over this section, but so yeah, that's maybe I would have another bass part. So I'm going to do maybe I'm going to make a 4-bar long bass part. So I'm just clicking, dragging, letting go, right click, insert MIDI clip, or alternatively the create menu, insert MIDI clips, or there's a keyboard shuck, which is Command Shift M, or Control Shift M. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do here, but I'm just demonstrating. Just demonstrating that it's possible to create clips in the arrangement view as well. I mean, I find the way that I use Ableton when I'm just trying to write some music is I'll often start off in the session view, because it's really cool for just putting in lots of different clips and trying out different things against each other, trying that bass part with that drum beat and that sort of thing. And then it's good to kind of move into the arrangement and try and create something with some structure. So I'm just making another bass line. I'm going to zoom out. I've made it all a bit too high. I'm going to Command A to select all, and I'm going to, I want to move it down an octave, so I could just press the down button 12 times, but I can hold Shift and down, and that moves it down an octave, and I'm going to do that once more. Okay, so I seem to be writing a B section. I'm going to make another little. Here's a useful way of doing things that might be useful. I'm going to drag. Going to click and drag, and hold down Alt and copy that bass part down to this chord track. So at the moment that's just going to play exactly the same. making sure that I'm on the right track, I'm gonna do the opposite of what I was just doing on the bass track. I'm gonna bring it all up to octave. This is just a handy way of kind of getting the notes. So I'm just gonna drag this first note out over the others. And now I've just got the root notes of the chords there already so that I can so it's easier for me to fill in some. And I'm just gonna fill in some chords. I'm doing this slightly randomly. That's probably about right. This is not a music theory lesson. We'll get someone else to do that. That's fine. That third chord is Gav. Let's work out where I went wrong there. Oh, it should just be let's call it some sort of F minor. That'll do it. Worth noting here that because these are loops, if you say look here, you can actually see what I'm editing. Because this loops around twice, if I move this note around, you'll see it's moving there and there because it's a loop. If I copy this clip over here, it's not part of the same loop, it's its own little thing. I'm just going to make it smaller. If I change things on that one, the one over here is not affected. It's only if you're dragging it out that it remains, it's the same loop playing over and over. I don't really know where I'm going with this. I'm just let's bring in a different drum beat and copy that and copy that. Well, I'm just duplicating them. And I'm gonna click on this clip here. I'm gonna hold down Shift and click on the bottom one here so that they're all selected. Click, drag, and hold Alt. And we've got a beautiful arrangement going on here. I think it's a solid gold hit. Worth noting, if you press here's actually a few things I haven't really covered about the way you can move around in arrangement view. If you move the mouse into this sort of this little sort of cordoned off grey bar here, the mouse will turn into a little speaker. If you click, it'll play from that part where you've just clicked. And because Ableton's generally designed with the idea that you can do lots of stuff without ever pressing stop, which is quite good. So it'll just, if I click over here, it'll come in roughly in time. So that's one way of moving around. Also very, very much worth noting, it's just something that's second nature to me, that your spacebar is play and stop. It's both. Also, if you want to hear your tune from the beginning, if you do this and then press stop twice, that all works. Press stop twice and it will go. Realise you can see everything I type while I'm getting secret messages. There you go. I'll just send a large thumb up. That's lovely. Yeah, so I'll just go over various ways you can move around in here. So yeah, if you double tap on the stop button here, it just takes you right back to the beginning. So, you know, if we're playing here and I'm like, oh, I want to hear this masterpiece from the beginning. So everyone's been quite quiet in the chat for a while. Hopefully that means that you're creating your own masterpieces. I reckon we'll probably go for another 15 minutes or so. If anybody, yeah, if there's anything we've gone over so far that went over anybody's head, or that you just missed, or that you would like me to explain a bit better, yeah, let me know. If there's anything else you'd really like me to cover in this session, then great. And if there's not, also great. I think what I might do is just try and throw in a little bit of stuff about adding effects to things, which we might not cover in great depth, but just how you add in effects in Ableton might be a good thing, so you've got just more things to play with. And it's not particularly complicated to do. Yeah. Just gonna have some juice. And check in on the chat. The scene functionality. Yes, I can. Sorry, I sort of started looking at it and then skipped right over it. So the scene stuff is it's more to do with playing live and being able to jam about with stuff. I got frightened by the fact that I actually had a limitation on it. So rather than arranging things in the arrangement view like this, it's actually is it connected to transferring from session to arrangement? You can actually, I'm really terrible at this bit because I've been using Ableton in very strange ways for quite a while. But you can actually just drag whole scenes from one to the other, like that, by selecting everything. In fact, you can drag loads of stuff and it'll bung it all in order. Yeah, scenes are a good way to mess about with the arrangement of your song. If I just play this here, and yeah, they're a good way to kind of mess about with different combinations of things, and have lots of stuff all play at once. So, you know, I can have a first scene which has this one breakdown drum beat in and this bass, and then if I trigger this one, it'll just be these things in, and then maybe I'm gonna copy this stuff up, and that'll be the next scene. yeah, they're a good way to do that. It's very easy to drop stuff in and out. And it's also possible, this is something I didn't really go into that is quite a good way. I'm gonna delete that entire arrangement. Actually, I'm not, because it might be useful to have. I'm just gonna click my return to arrangement. I'm just gonna take it all and drag it far away, far ahead in time, so I've got a nice big empty space. It's actually possible to sort of do a little performance using some scenes and some clip triggering and have everything that you do be recorded into the arrangement view. So rather than just kind of dragging stuff in manually like I was doing, you can actually do a performance. And I'm gonna, this is where my, the fact that I'm mainly stuck on Ableton 9, yes, no, it does work exactly how I thought it would do. So if I press record, and it'll start playing automatically, and then I'm just going to go through and trigger this first scene, and then trigger this next scene, and then actually I'm just going to trigger this drum, and then I'm going to trigger the third scene. And then actually this is a handy button that we haven't really gone over before. The one over here, it stops every clip that's playing. So I'm just going to click that about now. I'm going to press the stop button. And if I, once again, just click the back to arrangement button, everything that is here, this is the exact arrangement that I just put in. This is what I was just playing. So sometimes playing with the arrangement, playing with the session view can be a really good way just to jam out a little structure that you can then put into, it records it live into the arrangement. It's not recording the sound or anything, it's just basically putting in the clips that you were triggering. And then you can obviously go in and maybe refine, if you made any mistakes or if you did any of that stuff, you can go in and refine, do more editing. But yeah, it gives you a really good combination of being able to mess about with stuff live and also being able to then go in and fine tune, do the fun stuff. It is also, if you've made a decent arrangement in here, it is totally possible. If you click top left clip, click bottom right of the area I want to get while holding shift, that will try that. And then click and hold, press tab, and you can drop stuff in here, and then kind of mess about with it that way. Just going to undo that. It is also possible, I guess I'll maybe leave talking about effects and things for today, but we could also mention the fact, I'm just going to take this, well, exactly, who needs a band anymore? It's probably a bigger subject than I'm going to cover in the next 5 minutes, but if you're doing this arrangement record thing, so I've just deleted that one, I'm just going to do the same again. I'm just going to press record and I'm going to trigger some stuff. Now if I play with some of these, does it? I have not fully and properly investigated the way that the automation, yes, it does record that. Cool, I'm just going to undo that recording. Yeah, it's possible to... yes, you'd like a wee melody idea from the computer mic. Katrina, yes, you can add stuff in. I mean, that's what all I've really covered today is the kind of MIDI tracks and the instruments. It is possible to record audio, and it's also possible to drag in audio files from your computer. So if you have audio files like that, you can literally just drag them from a folder straight onto a track, or you can do it from within the live browser. I'm just trying to find. I've got a folder full of absolute nonsense here. But yeah.
Bullet. Circuit. Chorus.
Yeah, so you can. It's actually, if you're putting stuff like this, it's sometimes easier to put it in an arrangement, because then you can drop stuff on the timeline rather than it just looping round and round. I mean, I'll show you that. If I drop this onto an audio track, actually by default it'll just make it something that plays once. I feel like I could get down a rabbit hole right now of what we're doing, but if I switch on warp and loop, then it'll make it into quite an annoying sound to just turn around, and that upsets me quite a lot. So if I drag that over here and go back to arrangement, and there you are. Now it says cities, like a cool thing. And yeah, so yeah, you can drag in things from a voice memo or something. Files like that you should just be able to drag in. Also, if you want to record from the computer mic, or if you have an audio interface plugged in, you just need to make sure that you've got the right things set up. Yeah, the idea of, you can obviously drag in any sound you want, whether or not it'll be in time and stuff like that is a whole other question. Also, I'm wondering whether the convert to MIDI feature is in this version, but it's not, which is quite a fun feature that I never use. But if you want to record onto an audio track, I'm going to do this in the arrangement view because it seems simpler. You'll see this is I'm going to delete this track with the cities thing on it. I'm going to call this singing, just cause. And you'll see where you can select where it's coming from. We're just going to leave that at external in. And this kind of exists because some people have audio interfaces with tons of inputs with loads of different stuff plugged in. I'm just going to select one. You have a choice as to whether you're going to hear this is the monitoring. I'm only going to go over this really quickly. I'm just going to leave this off because I've already got my computer mic in my earphones, and there's only so much of my voice that I can deal with right now. And I'm going to try and make a pleasing noise over the top. So if I just click record, you'll see that it's recording. I think because of the way I've had to set this up for streaming, I've got insane amounts of latency. So I was singing on the bar, but it's coming in really late. Hopefully you are your mileage will be better. I'm just going to do a little bit of editing and see if that there. I mean, not my finest vocal performance, but that is how you can record audio. If I just add another track, click arm recording, and I'm just going to press record again. Something like that. In a properly set up Ableton session, you shouldn't have this tons of delay. You know, there we go. That's some audio recorded in. Because I'm having to use a weird audio driver to get the audio to go to the streaming thing, my setup's not working quite as nicely as it could. But that's a very quick thing on recording in audio. I think I'll probably, if people have any last questions for today, let me know. I think we'll wind up in a couple of minutes. I think for the next session next week, obviously I'm quite happy if people want to send kind of questions or extra stuff via probably the Facebook event that we all came here from, if that makes sense. You know, if you have stuff that you'd really like me to cover, that's great. I'm quite happy to be led by you, because you know this is for you. Yeah, let me know. Obviously, well, I'm assuming that this stream will stay up, or at least, you know, the video will be there. So, you know, you can obviously go back and look at stuff. I'm very happy to take criticism if anybody has, you know, if there's stuff that I could be doing better, love to know that. And if there's particular things about Ableton you'd like to know, that's great. I think next time I'd quite like to look at more stuff about handling audio, recording audio, ways you can put audio into the samplers and sort of mess around with it and mangle it. I think that can be that's one of the things that Ableton's very strong with. And I'd also quite like to look at some of the ways that you can control Ableton. If people have, you know, if you have a MIDI controller or something like that with some knobs on it, or some sliders, or any sort of control, working out how you can then use that to get hands-on control with Ableton. Yeah, I think I'll have a think about it between now and next week, and hopefully people have enjoyed themselves. You know, if you make any banging tracks, you know, I don't know, I'm sure you can find a way to share them via the internet if you want to send us, you know, links to your SoundCloud, etc. And yeah, I think I think it's all been good. I think I will sign off just about. I think if we can communicate via the medium of the Facebook event page, totally happy to field people's questions. My regular job is as a live sound engineer, and my entire industry is shut down, so I've got time on my hands. Yeah. All right, I think I'm going to click the button. Thank you all for being here. I hope that you all make some excellent music, and see you all next week, where I may not be here, I might be in the Highlands, but wherever I've got an internet connection, that is where I live. And now I can't find the broadcasting software to stop. Well, I really can't. There we go. Here it is. Okay, signing off. Till next time.